to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Irene. My name is Ceniza Choy, and I'm a professor of ethnic studies and Asian American and Asian diaspora studies at UC Berkeley. And it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be here with all of you this afternoon. First, there are a couple of reasons why I'm here and so excited to be here. And the first is that I teach Filipino American history at UC Berkeley, and the past 3 times I've taught this course, I have invited Cecilia Garolin to my class, and I'm just so pleased with and so happy for her and the Bataan Legacy Historical Society for all the recent successes and developments regarding the California curriculum. Second, October is Filipino American History Month, as honored by the White House, and as the Philippine Consul General had mentioned earlier in the conference. And I just want to celebrate it to the fullest. And so the Filipino American student organizations earlier this week on Wednesday had a Sproul Visibility Day on the Mario Savio steps of the UC Berkeley campus, and they invited me to speak. And I took this opportunity to say a few things that we have to acknowledge the size and significance of our Filipino American community. According to the 2012 US Census, there are approximately 3.4 million Filipino Americans in the United States, making our community the second largest Asian American group in the country. And we're a community that's so incredibly diverse. We should acknowledge that diversity. We're diverse across socioeconomic class. We're diverse across generations. We are a diverse community because of our mixed racial and ethnic origins. But we are united by a Filipino American history. And I was pleased to have the opportunity last Wednesday on our campus to say part of that history is that we share something. We share a history with those Filipinos in the Philippines and Filipino Americans in the United States who fought alongside Americans during World War II, who liberated Filipinos and Americans from POW death camps, and who made vital contributions to rescue operations by the Allied forces throughout the Pacific. Third, like so many of you here today, I also have a personal connection to this history. And it's so meaningful to come right after the panel on Yusufe and the guerrilla units, because my lolo, my grandfather, was a Yusufe member. And he was part of a guerrilla unit that was not recognized by the US government. And so being here today enables me to honor his memory. And so many of you have inspired me to do further research about his history. So I'm very grateful. I just want to give a short overview of the history of nursing in the Philippines. So the introduction of nursing in the Philippines was part of a larger US colonial agenda to prepare Filipinos for self-rule through the introduction of American medical practices. American medicine, US colonizers believed, would transform Filipino bodies into a people capable of self-government. And so Filipino health became a forceful metaphor for the primary objectives of US colonialism. Although Edward Carter, a US Army surgeon and Philippine Commissioner of Health, had recommended the establishment of a training school for Filipino nurses before the Philippine Commission as early as 1903, and although the Baptist Foreign Mission Society had established the Iloilo Mission Hospital School of Nursing in 1906, it was not until 1907, with the urging of Mary Coleman, who was Dean of Women at the Philippine Normal School, that the US colonial government established a nursing school. From 1907 to 1910, the training of the first Filipino nursing students began with a common first year of study at Philippine Normal School, and then the student nurses separated for their practical nursing work at 3 different hospital schools of nursing: St. Paul's Hospital, the Civil Hospital, which would later be known as PGH, or Philippine General Hospital, and University Hospital, later known as St. Luke's Hospital School of Nursing. By 1910, Filipino nursing students completed both their classroom and practical nursing work within their individual hospitals, as was the practice in the United States. These students studied the subjects typical of an early 20th century American professional nursing curriculum, such as practical nursing, materia medica, massage, and bacteriology. And from the beginning of this education, the study of English for Filipino nurses, both English grammar as well as colloquial English, was an integral part of the nursing students' curriculum. And this English language component of their training was one of the more unique aspects of US colonial education in the Philippines. There was a racial hierarchy that informed the training of these early 20th century Filipino nurses, in the sense that these nursing students could become the equals of white American nurses sometime in the future, but only through white American nurses' training and supervision first. However, pioneering Filipino student nurses also interpreted the nursing profession in various ways. Excerpts of interviews with pioneering Filipino student nurses revealed that they thought of nursing as an opportunity to enter a new and prestigious profession. Thus, Apollonia Salvador Ladao, one of the first graduates of the Philippine General Hospital School of Nursing, recalled, quote, "When we took up nursing, we did not know what it was all about. We were simply selected and recommended by our American teachers. We were thankful of this opportunity to enter a new profession and to serve our people." The study of nursing gave Filipino women the opportunity to interact with US colonial government officials and with Filipino, typically male students of medicine, a field that Filipino women had previously been excluded from under the Spanish colonial regime, and which a field from which prominent Filipinos like Jose Rizal had emerged with distinction. As Veneranda Sulit Atienza, one of the first nursing graduates of St. Luke's Hospital School of Nursing in 1911, recalled, "I had to work hard in order to keep up with my class activities that seemed strange and difficult at first. I was particularly interested in the bacteriology class and was fascinated by the specimens our teacher showed us through the microscope. The presence of both normal school and pre-medic students in the same class made me feel proud and important." World War II and the Japanese occupation of the Philippines in 1942 violently disrupted the training and practice at these hospital schools of nursing. Although training continued at some institutions like PGH and St. Luke's Hospital, according to Josefina Sablan, who studied at St. Luke's from 1939 to 1942, the Japanese regime compelled them to train under a Japanese principal and to study the Japanese language. In her History of Philippine Nursing, Anastasia Giron-Tupas detailed the destructive impacts of the war at individual Philippine hospitals. During the American siege of South Manila in 1945, more than 10,000 refugees occupied the wards, basement, the dispensary, and all other available spaces at PGH. Giron-Tupas recounted, quote, "Some of them, the nurses, some of them were hit by shrapnel and were instantly killed. The hospital became a virtual battleground as bullets from both Americans and Japanese were exchanged. But the doctors and nurses stood their grounds and performed their sacred duties in the face of these dangers." The American Philippine War Damage Commission was able to rebuild Philippine General Hospital after the war. However, St. Paul's Hospital, located in Intramuros, the scene of a fierce battle between Japanese American forces, like many other buildings in that area, did not survive. In the history of nurses at Bataan during World War II, more attention has been given to the quote-unquote angels of Bataan, who refer to the American nurses, their hardships and sacrifices. Quote, They were the largest group of women POWs in the history of our country, said Elizabeth M. Norman in a 1999 news article in the LA Times. She chronicled their plight in the book called We Band of Angels, the untold story of American nurses trapped on Bataan. Part memoir, part history, the book is an account of the 99 nurses known as the Angels of Bataan. It is a story, say some historians and surviving nurses, that has taken too long to tell. Quote, "It's about time. There have been stories written, a person's personal story, but nobody's ever told the whole story," said Helen Cassiani Nestor, who at age 82 is one of the 18 nurses known to be alive from this group. There's still a lot of discussion about the role of women in combat. We were exposed to a lot of the shelling and bombardment in Bataan and Corregidor. Our group proved that we could go into the field and carry on and do a good job. People need to know that, she said. However, less attention has been given to the Filipino nurses of Bataan, and I'd like to conclude by reading a short excerpt of testimony by Sergeant Carl Ritt that was published in the American Journal of Nursing in 1945. And I believe, so these images are from that 1945 article. Dr. Guidelia M. Pablan of near Lingayan, who won her medical degree at Santo Tomas University, Manila in 1946, had volunteered to go to Bleeding Bataan to care for her people. And with her were two nurses, Carmen Lanot and Bruna R. Calvan, who remained throughout the 3 years of occupation. "We stayed because we were all single," Dr. Pablan explained simply. "When the enemy drove us out of our hospital and burned the buildings, we moved into a convent. And then, when the convent was burned, we moved into the fish ponds. Here, on narrow strips of ground between deep waters, the hospital functioned in nipa huts, crude floorless structures. Kitchen, dormitory, wards, dispensary, all were jammed together. Supplies were rationed by the Board of Health at Manila, and each month the nurse, Miss Lanot, set out in a bangka, a narrow outrigger canoe facetiously called by Army men the LCNC, Landing Craft Native Canoe. The trip across Manila Bay took 2 nights and 3 days, during which she traveled without cover, day or night. There she was carefully allotted quinine and other supplies. She brought rice too until October of 1944, when the rice scarcity hit Manila. Then the mayor of Hermosa took it upon himself to keep the hospital supplied with corn and camotes, native potatoes. But we were used to eating rice, said Miss Calvan, and it made some of us cry not to get any. Throughout the 3 years, these brave women treated their people, and stealthily the guerrillas and the Americans. The guerrillas lived in the mountains, said Dr. Pablan. There the malaria is bad, very bad. So we gave them quinine. But the Japanese knew how much quinine was issued. So we made up names and put them in the book. They gave the guerrillas other supplies. A juggling of records hid the disappearance from the hospital of a quantity of vaccine. But the guerrillas had no syringe, and the hospital had but one. We gave it to them. For some months, Dr. Pablan and Nurse Lanot set out on foot on dangerous visits to the guerrillas to care for them in their hideouts. And after liberation, Dr. Pablan said, "We have lied and we have cheated, perhaps, but we do not care. We have tried to care for our people in need." Thank you very much.